If you want your staff to be loyal to you, then you need to be loyal to them. Almost 90% of our staff are people who were raised in our program, were coached by us at some point in time, and now have returned to continue their cheerleading career in our business. If you want them to be loyal to you, your staff need to know that you would be willing to lay down in traffic for them. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are going to be talking about how I have increased staff loyalty. And I'm going to be pulling from my experience owning 3 different companies, employing across all of those companies over 75 employees in the cheer industry. So I'm going to give you some of the tips and tricks that I have learned over the years to build and cultivate loyal staff. Now, as we get into the episode, I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of background. So like I said, I've run 3 different companies. I own NextGen with 4 other owners. Very fortunate to have them that they actually initially built NextGen and I was able to buy into the company. I started as an employee and now I'm an owner. And I own Oregon Dream Teams with my wife, Tori Cotton, and I own Dream Camps as well that runs residential overnight summer cheerleading camps for teams, individuals, and all-star programs, as well as private camps and choreography. And over the years, I have been very fortunate to have really amazing staff members. But when I first started, I had a crazy amount of turnover in my gym in particular, where we had new coaches every single year. It felt like we were always going through shifts. And on our class side, we had constant coaching changes. And it just felt like we could never get our feet underneath us because we didn't have that core group of staff that really helped our gym start to thrive. And now we're at a point where I was actually just at brunch with my parents, ironically, and we were talking about our staffing, and they'd asked if we had a lot of turnover, and we really don't. We did have some coaches leave this year. All of those coaches had been with us for multiple years. One left just to focus on, living her life and spending time with her boyfriend and working her other jobs and coaching her high school team. Like, she already had a lot on her plate and she just needed to let one thing go, but she's still involved in the program. Another is one of our dearest friends and coached at the gym that we now own for over 25 years. She basically started coaching at it when it first opened under another owner and coached all the way through her last season. And she was my co-coach, an amazing friend. And then another was we knew it was a short duration. She came to us starting a master's program. We knew we had her for 3 years. And then she just commissioned into the Air Force and is moving to DC to do amazing things. And we knew that was coming. So all of our losses were losses that we would have expected. And then other than that, of our staff at our gym, almost all of them have been with us for 3 to 5 years. There are a few that are new within their first year that are new hires to help with our class programming. And that's just been as our programming has grown. But one of the really cool things is almost 90% of our staff are people who were raised in our program, were coached by us at some point in time, and now have returned to continue their cheerleading career in our business. And that has been really, really amazing. And reality is that Dream Camps, a lot of it functions very similarly. I started small. I had a small group of staff, many of them being kids that I had trained or coaches that I knew personally. And as people did a great job, I really just did everything based off of referral. Who would fit? And the biggest question I always ask them is who fits within our family? Like, who aligns with us from a perspective of how to teach, how to coach, who are going to be the people that we want to spend time with in the evening, talking cheerleading and spending our summer with. And so selecting on that criteria has made for a really amazing group of people that I'm just fortunate enough to lead. I do have some tricks that I think are really important for building loyalty in your staff, and they sometimes get overlooked. Now, I know there was a huge thread on ASGA on coach loyalty and treating coaches right, and I debated back and forth on whether or not I wanted to break down that entire post, and I still may, but I didn't want to I didn't want to start anything. That was that individual's perspective. I agreed with some of the things that they said. I disagreed with a number of things that they said. And I didn't want to break it down in that manner because I just didn't think it would be productive to the conversation. Ultimately, what I do want to talk about is how to build loyal staff and how to take good care of your people. So number one is if you want your staff to be loyal to you, then you need to be loyal to them. And this oftentimes gets missed in the cheer industry. We get distracted by someone's pedigree, someone new who comes in who says, I coached this world's team and I have these rings, or I did this, or I did that. They come in and we get swayed by the shiny object and we say, oh my gosh, I need this person. So we throw the baby out with the bathwater and offer them everything under the sun. Meanwhile, that coach who has been with you for 5 years is still getting paid the hourly wage that they started with. And they're like, I've literally been here forever. I've cut my teeth in your program. I've killed myself for you. I've worked every birthday party, every special event. When the gym was locked and you needed someone let in, I drove here. I did all of those things for you. And now this person comes in, and just because they worked somewhere else, you're going to pay them a bunch more money. That said, there is an argument to say, well, someone has experience and experience is worth money. So I'm not saying that you can't bring on new people at a higher rate than the current people you have, but you need to make sure that you're showing those people the path to growing within your program and showing that loyalty to them and not picking someone new over them. I actually just had this conversation with someone who was interviewing at my program, and they were interviewing and they didn't like the way I structure my private lessons, which is private lessons run through the gym and you have to work a certain number of hours before you can be authorized to run private lessons with your own company outside of our normal business hours. They also wanted to be paid a little bit more than I was willing to pay them. And I just straight up told them, hey, I respect your opinion. I respect your position, but you need to understand that I'm not going to give you a higher level team or a higher salary or the ability to run private lessons on your own if I'm not giving that to other employees, because those people have been here with me. They've pushed with me. They've helped grow this program with me. And I believe it is important to do right by them. So I'm never going to offer a brand new person who I don't know something that they haven't had the opportunity to have. And they're the reason that I'm still able to be open. So I think it is really important to be loyal to those people. On top of that, I think it is important to be loyal to them and have their back in the decisions that they make, especially when those decisions are not in violation of policy or rules or things like that. Number two is you need to give them the support to be successful at their position. Nothing is worse than setting your employees up to fail. And I mentioned this in another podcast where I talked about how in business in general, but especially in cheer, we promote people to their level of incompetence, and we don't give them the training and the mentorship and the guidance to be successful at their new positions. And so you need to make sure that you're giving them that support to be successful at their new position. So when you promote someone to being a manager, are you giving them the tools to be a good manager? Are you meeting with them regularly? Are you communicating the things that need to be happening? Are you guiding them through what their roles and responsibilities are? Are you checking on them? Are you course correcting for them? When you hire a new employee, are you just throwing them out and saying, hey, here's a back handspring class, run it? Or are you training them? Are you giving them a curriculum? Are you giving them their right and left limits? Are you setting them up for success so they can deliver a great product for you? Because when you do that, you will instill more loyalty for your people. They will want to continue to work for you because you are taking care of them. Number three is your staff. If you want them to be loyal to you, your staff need to know that you would be willing to lay down in traffic for them. And this is one of the most important ones, in my opinion. I probably should have put what I'm going to put as number 4 as number 3 and save this one for the end, but this one is so critical. Your staff need to know that you will do whatever it takes to take care of them and make sure that you have their back for life. They need to believe that in their soul. And if they do, they will be far more loyal to you because they will know that you care for them on a deep level. I have had this play out in a variety of different ways. For instance, you have that parent who comes in and they are heated. They are mad. Your coach may have even messed up. They may have made a mistake. And you handle that not by throwing the coach under the bus, but by having their back, by saying, hey, That's on me as their owner, as their manager. That's on me. I'm going to take that. I don't want you to blame them. I dropped the ball on this. It's all on me. Please don't be mad at them. It happened because of X, Y, and Z lack of system or X, Y, and Z lack of training. That's my fault. That shouldn't have been your experience. Or even those moments where parent is completely out of pocket and they are way out of line and you put them in their place and you say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I've had these happen where a parent comes in and we're having a meeting and maybe the coach is there. The parent says, hey, I want to talk about Susie's spot. And they come in and they start attacking the coach. And then I step in and I go, you will not speak to them that way. If you're going to have this conversation, we're going to talk about your daughter and her situation. We're not going to attack the coach because that's not what we're going to do here. So if you want to do that, you can turn around and walk right out the door. That coach then knows that I'm not going to allow that to happen. And I'm willing to step in front of that bullet for them. That is going to inspire loyalty with your staff. It can even be when they completely mess up. Okay. I had a couple staff, they messed up. They got in some trouble, very minor. They made a boneheaded decision and they ended up getting a fine. And instead of making them pay that fine, I paid that fine because they're my staff. They're my people. They were like, take it out of my paycheck. And I'm like, that's not what I do. That's not what I do. You're here with me. I'm taking care of this. You'll make it right. I know you will over time, but just know that I'm taking care of this because ultimately it falls back to me and falls back to the company. Now, do you have to do that? No. These also were people who've been with me for years and years, and I love them dearly, and they don't really have the finances to pay the fine. So it was not a big deal. But those kind of moments where you show your staff that you're willing to go the extra mile for them are critical. I did an episode on this last year. It was called Why I Wash the Dishes. I was talking about how at camp, during meal times at the old place where we did camp, where we managed all the food and everything, I'd hop in and wash dishes. And I'd hop in and wash dishes. And I always ate last and I washed dishes and I did all those things because I wanted my staff to always know that I would never put myself and my own personal needs before theirs. So I eat last. I make sure that all of the job gets done and they're taken care of, because then when we go back to the gym and they start working, they're going to take care of me. They're going to deliver the product because I can't run 10 rotations at a time by myself. I need them to be at their best, whereas they don't need me to go run their rotations. So I can make sure that they're fed. I can make sure that those things happen and that everyone is taken care of. And that has over the years inspired a very fierce loyalty from my staff because they know that I'm going to take care of them. They know that I have their back and that I'm willing to lay down in traffic for them. Now, my number 4 is, well, like I said, it should have been number 3, is you have to pay people well. Now, I don't mean you have to pay people $1 million, but you have to pay people fairly. Okay. Please stop taking advantage of coaches if you are an owner. Now, I'm not saying you are, but we as an industry historically have done that. And I say that because I was a coach who got taken advantage of. When I used to coach, I had to pay. I bought my own flights to go to competitions to coach my teams because the owner knew that I cared enough that I would do that. And so they just said, sorry, we don't have it in the budget to send you. So you can just not go, which heck no, I wasn't going to not go. And so I had one trip where parents bought the flights and paid for my hotel. I had many trips that I just bought the flights myself. Like that was just what I was willing to do. And was I taken advantage of in that scenario? Yeah, I was. That wasn't a cool way to do things. And I'm not saying any of you listening are doing that. In fact, if you're listening to this, it's very unlikely that you are, but make sure that you are taking care of your coaches financially. Make sure that when they are traveling on trips, they're not paying for things. They get a food per diem, they get their parking paid for, they have their flights, they have their hotel. They are taken care of because they're traveling for work and they're traveling for you. Take them out to a nice dinner. These things are write-offs, you guys. Like, take advantage of them, write these things off, take care of your staff, treat them the right way. All the way down to, I mentioned it kind of at the beginning, pay them a wage that is reasonable. Again, don't sell the farm. Make sure that you're priced correctly. We'll talk about that in other episodes. Make sure that your pricing is correct so you're not going out of business because you're paying people exorbitant salaries. But at the same time, you need to pay people a fair wage. You should never be allowing staff to work voluntarily or do those kind of things. That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't be asking your staff to volunteer their time. You should always be compensating them in accordance with your local laws and in accordance with what's right. As we look at leadership, there's a lot of different ways to lead and a lot of different ways to inspire loyalty. There is certainly a technique of loyalty through fear, right? I'm afraid to mess up, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to not get in trouble. That is not my style of leadership, and that is not any style of leadership I would recommend, because people will only be loyal so long as they think they're going to get in trouble if they're not. And once they have another opportunity and once they have another option, they will abandon you very, very quickly. For those of you who don't know, I was in the military. I served 8 years in the United States Army National Guard. I deployed to Iraq in 2009, 2010, and I experienced a wide spectrum of leaders. And I wouldn't say that I experienced any like amazing leadership. I also worked in law enforcement for 15 years, and I can tell you that I had supervisors, I had leaders, and in a profession that was dangerous, in a profession that I have been shot at. I've experienced those things in my life. I have leaders that if they told me, Dan, I need you to go through that door, I would have, because I trusted them. I was loyal to them, and I knew that if they were telling me something needed to happen, that was probably what needed to happen. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't think for a second. That doesn't mean I would throw caution to the wind, but I would execute on their behalf. And if they were in danger, I certainly would have hung it out there to try and keep them safe and protect them. I've also had leaders on the flip side that I didn't trust them if they told me anything, because I never knew what their motivation was. I didn't trust their decision making, and I was not loyal to them in any way, shape, or form. And it came down to how they carried themselves, how they treated me, were they loyal to me, how they treated my peers and their subordinates as well. You see all of that when you're under someone's supervision. So what I want you to try to do is be that military leader that your staff would, and it's cheerleading, right? But your staff would be willing to charge that beachhead for you. They know that if you're saying this thing needs to be done, then they're going to attack that beachhead and they're going to make it happen because they believe you, they trust you, they're loyal to you. They're willing to hang it out there because of who you are and how you take care of your people. So what I want you to do as you leave the episode is I want you to look at what has your staff retention been? Have you seen a lot of turnover? And if you've seen a lot of turnover, why is that? Now, maybe you're in a college town and you only get people for 4 years, and that's kind of just the cycle of life in your gym. But look at that retention. Look at what their exit interviews say. If you don't do exit interviews, you might want to consider starting those. And then I want you to think about, how would your staff describe you? How do you think your staff would describe you as a leader, as an owner, as a manager, as a boss? How would they describe their experience? Are they out there telling people, man, I used to work at this gym and it was the best thing ever? Or, yeah, I used to work at that gym. Don't ever go work for them. They're awful. Now, do I have employees, former employees that probably say that about me? Yeah. And are some of them saying that because we didn't get along because they couldn't follow rules or they didn't align with our values? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I'm sure there's people out there that say I'm a horrible boss. Also, though, have I earned that in moments? Yeah, I haven't always been perfect. I've definitely had things that if I could go back in time, I would lead differently. I would do it differently. You can't change those things. All you can do is learn from those things. So how would your staff describe you? Do they believe that you have their back? Do they believe that you have their best interest at heart? Do they believe that you are making sound decisions for the right reasons? As you assess all that, I want you to take the time and go, okay, where can we improve? Where can we grow? How can we show our staff more that we're loyal to them? Do we need to look at their compensation? How can we give them more support to be successful at their position? Do my staff know that I will lay down in traffic for them, or will I? Because if you won't, then you might have the wrong people in the positions. Or maybe that's just not you. Maybe I'm a little bit different, but I can tell you, I have staff. Like I love my staff. I love them. They are a part of my life. They are a part of my family, and they aren't my friends. They're my staff, and I care for them deeply. I not quite as deeply as I care for my own children, but like they're just a little step below. They're a step above how I care about my athletes on my teams, and I care about them a lot, and they're a step above that. So they live somewhere in between my biological children and the athletes that I coach on my teams is where kind of my staff lives. Assess that, see where you're at, and then see where you can make improvements. Because if you can really make your staff feel valued, feel loved, feel cared for, feel appreciated, they're going to stay with you for a lot longer because that relationship means more to them. Just like it's a lot harder for a client to quit a relationship than it is to quit a membership, it's a lot harder to quit a relationship than it is to quit a job. that actually was the biggest thing that kept me from leaving law enforcement for the time that I did. I didn't want to leave all my friends. And then I found a way to still stay involved with my friends. And that went out the window and it became a lot more palatable, right? So look at that. Are you building those relationships? Is it something that people don't want to leave because being a part of your gym is a part of their identity and they're loyal to your gym and they're loyal to you? Or is it just a paycheck? All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you have been enjoying all of the content. You've probably seen that I've changed the format just a little bit. I hope you're loving it. If you're not, let me know. If you want me to go back to the long intro and the little bit different structure, please let me know. If you want me to talk more about cheerleading and less about business, I'm happy to spice it up. I do have some guests in the works. I'm going to be recording a number of episodes while I'm at camp with some of my staff who are some of the best cheerleaders in the entire country and interviewing them and learning about their experiences. And I'll be posting that on this podcast as well. Let me know if you have feedback. If you see me out and about, you're coming to camps or you're just going to see me around, please say hi. It means the world to me to know that people are listening and this podcast makes an impact on your life. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode.